Welcome to episode 51 of Lifestory, brought to you by the Living Memory Association, based in the Wee Museum of Memory at Ocean Terminal in Leith. In this edition, we are joined by William Van Der Velde, who shares his memories of 7 to 8 years in Edinburgh. From attending David Kilpatrick School and reaching the ABA finals at the Albert Hall, to leaving school at 14 and later going on to work at Scottish and Newcastle breweries. Back in time we go. William Van Der Velde, welcome to Lifestory. Thank you for joining us here today at the Wee Museum of Memory studio. First of all, if you don't mind revealing your age, William, can you tell me how old you are and where you were born?
I'm 78 years old. I was born in Elsingles in Edinburgh. I was born on the 8th of January 1946.
And can you tell me a little bit about your mum and dad, please?
My father, his name was Johannes Van Der Velde. My mother was Jessica Van Der Velde. Her maiden name was Whitehead.
And what were their jobs?
My grandfather died in the Second World War, and he had a business that he was a fish merchant and he was also a coal merchant. And he left both businesses to my uncle and my father.
Can you remember how your mum and dad met?
I have no idea. I think they probably lived in the next stair to each other in the street.
And did you have much contact with your grandparents then, growing up?
My grandparents, I've never known any of my grandparents. They were all dead before I was born.
And did you have any brothers or sisters, William?
Yes, I had brothers. I'll tell you my brothers. James was deceased before I was born. There was John. There was Cornelius. There was Jane, who was deceased before I was born. And my sister was Isabella.
And was it a happy family unit? Do you have memories of happy family times?
No, really. My dad, it was the usual for the procedure at the time was the father went to the pub and the mother looked after the family.
And so do you have memories, was it just do you have memories of your dad coming in late or coming in drunk?
Aye, that as well. Memories of my father, it was like, my mother used to keep the insurance money behind the clock in case my father come in a bad mood, so she could give it to him to go to the pub.
And what are your memories of that house you grew up in, where that alarm clock was?
Well, it was a room and kitchen and an inside toilet. We were lucky to have an inside toilet because a lot of people had outside toilets that was shared with other people on the landing.
And where was that first house?
It was 55 West Bowling Green Street.
And in your head, if you close your eyes, can you picture what colour the front door was?
Postbox red, door on the stair to the tenement. Not to the actual entrance to the stair. And
did you have a rota of cleaning the tenement? Did the kids get involved in that at all, or was that?
It was just the card went on the handle of the door every time it was your turn.
What were the surroundings like for a kid growing up playing in the street in those days? Was there any parks around them? Was it always in the street? Victoria
Park was the nearest park, but it was too far away, so we used to play in the street. And the usual police would come. In those days, there'd be 2 policemen at a time, and you would maybe get your backside kicked if you weren't quick enough to get out the road.
And did you know the local policeman at that time?
On memory, my father knew them and used to know them. It was first name terms, but I didn't know. I didn't say I knew them.
Did they know where you lived and end up coming to the house to complain every now and then?
They did. I got caught up the apple tree and the police brought me home. And please believe me, I got quite a healthy beating up with my mother before they even said where it was.
And was that the stealing apples? Was that a love of apples, or was it just the mischief of?
Well, both.
And what kind of time would you spend with your mum and dad? Would it be just weekends then, where your dad was always out late, or was?
I was there all the time. I was there all the time. When I was first born, I had a crib in the kitchen, and they had a double bed next to mine. When looking back on it, we didn't think we were deprived, but we obviously must have been.
And was there any kind of social time with your mum and dad, like going out to the pictures as a family or anything like that?
No.
Right. And did your mum cook the meals, I take it?
Yes, on a gas ring or a fire.
When you were a kid, can you think of any food that you ate in those days that you don't eat now?
It used to be the usual tripe and mince and tatties, all that kind of stuff.
And were you always just happy to get a plate of food, or was tripe seems to be dreaded by a lot of people who've appeared on this Lifestory podcast?
I didn't, in actual fact, remember my mother washing it in the sink, by the way. No, we were never hungry.
And what were your earliest friendships, William?
My earliest friendships were people in the street. There was an area along the end of Graham Street that was, it had been a building that had been knocked down and cleared. And we used to play football there.
Were you a good footballer?
Reasonable.
And did you spend much time with the ball on your own, or would it always be with mates? I mean, were you doing keepy-uppies on your own?
To be honest, we didn't individually have a ball. There was a wee lad that had a really good ball, and we used to get him to bring his ball out. And every time it come near to tea time, he used to play the ball to the end of the big spare ground and pick it up and run away.
And would that have been one of those balls with the laces in the front? No. It
would be an old Friedel plastic.
Right.
The original plastic balls.
And was it a big group of pals you played with then in the street?
People from all over. There would be relatives coming from uptown. One place springs to mind is Jamaica Street up in Edinburgh. We had relatives that came from there. And the children would come down and they would all play football.
And was it always football, or was there Kirby or anything else played in the streets?
The girls played, the usual. I could sing a song if you want.
Yeah, no, I'd like that. 1, 2, 3, O'Leary, 4, 5, 6, O'Leary, 7, 8, 9, O'Leary, 10, O'Leary over ball. I'm not going to Barry Strip, I'm not going at all. I'm not going to Barry Strip, but I always comes on snow. Excellent.
It goes on.
Yeah, so you were obviously playing football, but keeping an eye on the skipping tunes as well.
Oh, aye. We'd sometimes play with the girls, different things, Levi and things like that.
Yeah. And did the girls ever play football?
No, never.
And were you in any youth organisations when you were a kid? Like the BBs or anything like that?
I was in them all.
And what activities would you do? Would you go away for weekends with them or camping?
The first one was the Cubs, which was in Craighall Road, right next to the bridge in Craighall Road. And that was the 7th. And we went up to Liberton Dams. There was a hostel up there. We went up for the weekend and had a great time.
Can you remember much about that? Was there sort of woodcraft, and would it just be like games, or was there that sort of scouting activity? Imagine like fires and sharpening bits
about the place.
Yeah.
Going for sticklebacks in the burn and that,
Yeah. So did you go to, so there'd be the camps, would there be a, every Thursday or something you'd go to Scout Hall or something?
Right. That's right, go to the Scout Hall. And we used to go up to Forest Road. I remember after about a year, my mother took me up and we got a uniform. I think she got it on a probie check, I'm not sure. And you get the lanyard and the cap and everything.
And looking back on that sort of primary school, sort of 5 to 10-year-old time, do you remember any particular birthdays or birthday presents that stick out?
I remember my 8th birthday, my brother got married. So we had the wedding, and the reception was in the wee Windies up in the High Street, still there.
Do you remember what the food was? Was it something special from...
Steak pie.
Steak pie, nice. And were there any holidays as a kid? Any family holidays at all?
My first holiday was BB camp, and I left the Scouts and went to the BBs because they were a better football team. And we used to play in Leatham Park, and there was a 9th BBs. Right opposite the first BBs, which was in Ferry Road. And that building's still there, the first BBs. With the BBs, we went to a place called Burlton, which is up just past Perth. Had a great time up there. And there used to be an advance party. We'd go up on the Friday and pitch the tents. And then we would go along the River Tay to the Nuclear Hedges. Nuclear Hedges, and I didn't know it was world famous, but I was quite impressed with that. And
nipping back to the football, would that be your first experience of organised football then, the BB games, playing with goals?
The first experience of football was Bonnet Road Primary School, where I got picked for the team. And I played for Leith as well, Leith schoolboys.
And are your memories of Bonneton Road Primary, are they happy memories?
Very happy.
Can you remember anything about your first day at primary school?
I can remember I had a blazer, which was unusual because most kids didn't have a blazer.
And were you a well-behaved kid?
Exceptionally.
And so that primary school time, were there any teachers that stick out that had a big impact on you?
The headmaster was a man called David Pride, and one year we won the junior cup, and he got one of his former pupils to come present the cup. The chap called Laurie Riley, he was a member of the Hibs famous 5 team.
Oh, that must have blown you guys away. That's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And did he speak to the boys afterwards?
He was great. Had the pub along the end of Mitchell Street. Laurie Riley.
Yeah, but he's one of the most famous Hibs players of all time, isn't he? I'm glad he spoke to the boys afterwards, because I won't name any names, but I played for Portobello Thistle and we won the league, and a famous footballer came along to present us with the shield for the league. and one of our coaches said to him, "Do you fancy saying a few words to the boys?" And he said, "No." I won't name his name though. Just a total. It's always stuck in my mind.
Turnbull.
No, I'll tell you after the show who it was. So you were a well-behaved kid, but did you, as a primary school, did you ever do anything forbidden and get into trouble, or any time you remember getting into trouble?
Apart from stealing the apples, and I was up the tree. Unfortunately for me, the ones that were at the bottom of the tree didn't tell me the police were on the way, and I got huckled and taken back in the police van to 55 West Bowling Green Street where I lived, and everybody was out the windows as they used to do in those days, and I was the talk of the town.
And did you get the belt or the cane or the
Just got a kicking.
Right.
My mother was exceptionally good. She had punches like George Foreman.
And yeah, so it was only really the apples that I can imagine that sort of terror would put you off getting into trouble again. So secondary school, William, which secondary did you go to?
Went to David Kilpatrick's junior secondary.
And that's where, of course, we've got a picture in our archive from your football team. And is that early days at secondary then?
That would be in the last year, towards the last year. And what happened there was, that was the house team. There was 4 houses, and that was Waverley.
And so the secondary school day, again, like your primary, are these happy memories, David Kilpatrick?
Brilliant. We won the league in the first year, we won the league in the second year, we won the league in the third year. And that time at school, I'm still trying to get a hold of the photograph that the Evening News took. Well, the 3 teams, the first, the Bs, the second and the first, and I still can't get a hold of it yet.
And what position were you playing at this point?
I used to play full back, right back.
So were you always a defender?
Well, later on in my life, I played centre forward because I was a boxer and I was dead fit.
And when did boxing come into your life?
Boxing came into my life when I was about 12, and I went to Sparta. Initially went to a club called the Leith Persevere, which was Balfour House in the middle of Polrick Park, which is now, I think it's private residence now, private residences. And
what made you want to go along to a boxing gym in the first place? Was it be listening to big fights on the radio, or was it a fitness thing, or pals?
To the fights and that. But it was just somewhere to go, rather than where do you go.
And did you feel you had a talent for that straight away?
Reasonably. I was trying to impress my father, really, I suppose, more than anything else. But anyway, that was the story. And I ended up, I was 14, I got to the final of the ABA in Albert Hall.
Wow.
And then people like Ken Buchanan and all the rest that were good didn't make it that year. Didn't make it to the final.
And so was that in, rather than age ranges then, was that just in weights? Or how, was it under 18s or under 16s? Or
age and weight. It was under 15, under 16, under 17.
Right.
And after the 17-year-old, you become a senior.
And do you remember much about so when you say you got to the finals, is that like the final stages of the ABA or the actual final? The actual final, right, okay. And so
Saturday afternoon on the telly.
Oh, brilliant.
BBC, I'm sure it was BBC One, the old Harry Carpenter stuff.
And you've not managed to dig out a video of that old fight? No.
You'll not get that.
Yeah, I think that's from the days, unfortunately, when the BBC used to erase all their old tapes and then record over them again. Do you remember much about the fight itself, the final?
I remember the guy that beat me, he beat me in the final, and he later turned pro, and he won the gold medal at the Commonwealth Games in Jamaica, and then he turned pro, and he ended up in the same camp with Eddie Thomas down in Wales as Ken Buchanan. Ken Buchanan being a club member of mine, club mate of mine. He says to Ken, you know that guy, he said, I had a hard fight against that guy. He says, tell him I'm asking for him. Then he sent me a letter. And to this day, I don't know what I done with the letter.
So what was his name, the guy that beat you in the final?
His name was Roger Tighe, Tighe.
So he went on to be a Commonwealth champion.
He was a Commonwealth, I think he was light heavyweight.
And in that final, did you, as soon as the round 1 started, did you think he's on a different level to me, or was it really a tight one?
No, it was tight.
It's close, was it?
I fought a coloured chap in the semi-final, and that was a few weeks before. And I think he beat me at the park.
The judges. Yeah.
I don't know if there was a race card played there or whatever.
Yeah.
But he should have been in the final.
Yeah.
And that's honest.
And the scoring in boxing in those days, and is it the same as the present day? Is it a clean hit gets you up, the judge marks a point down?
It's similar.
Or it's 10-8 and 10-9 rounds, is it?
Well, at one time, you see, it used to be 3 judges.
Yeah.
And then when any of the internationals or the upmarket kind of amateur boxing, there'd be 5. Like the games and things like that would be 5.
Yeah. So after that ABA final, that was kind of the high point of your boxing career then, was it? Did you fight on after that much?
I fought on for about another 15 years.
So did you turn pro?
No.
No, it's just always amateur.
It was never good enough.
So you must have fought a lot of amateur fights.
I fought an awful lot of guys, aye.
Yeah.
I mean, they still stop me in the street.
Do you know how many fights you had?
Couldn't say. A lot of the times you would turn up. Like, for example, there was one time I went to a boxing show in the Leith Dockers, and the coach or the trainer, he says the Dundee boxers there was a group from Dundee coming to fight our boys from Edinburgh, and what happened was their minibus had broken down, and the coach says to me, go home and get your kit. Get your gear because you'll be boxing. Mm-hmm. That was the kind of thing used to happen. Quite a few famous people around about the Edinburgh area. There was one family in particular, and one guy who was exceptional, a guy called Billy Appleby.
And your friendship with your Ken Buchanan's best man, as we were chatting about the other day, when did your friendship with Ken solidify?
Well, just in the boxing.
Yeah, so just from your early teenage years.
Yeah, just going to the boxing 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
See, the thing is about the Sparta, it was free. Didn't charge anything. The heating didn't work, the radiators didn't work, you couldn't get a shower. You got a cold shower, and to my knowledge, it was never ever rectified.
Keep you tough, that though, wouldn't it?
Oh.
And who was your big rivals in those days?
Boxing wise?
Yeah.
There was quite a few of them. I got to the stage where the Commonwealth Games 1970, and I can't remember the guy for the life of me, but he was picked above me. I was a welterweight, and I sparred with the 2 Emerys, and Thomas went on to win the gold medal at light middleweight, and he gave me his kit because I'd sparred with him all the way through, and he gave me his kit after the games, and to this day I've still got it. Still got one.
Yeah. How do you keep yourself fit these days?
Well, up until about 3 years ago, I was going to the gym, the Leith Victoria Baths. I was going there. I used to go on a regular basis, but then I got a new hip, so I've kind of fell by the wayside a wee bit. And
return to your secondary school days at David Kilpatrick. Are there a different group of mates that you meet then from primary school, or does it stay the same all the way through?
Definitely.
Yeah. Who was your best pal at David Kilpatrick?
Peter Cormack, played with the Hibs.
The footballer?
Well, Peter Cormack, Peter, and my cousin Peter Sinclair, and people you used to walk along the road to school with, you know.
And how long did you stay at school? Did you leave in 4th year or 5th year, or did you stay the whole way through?
I left before I was 15. I think I left at the end of the Christmas holidays.
And why was that? Was it just want to go out there and start working?
Just the way it was.
Yeah. Did any of your mates stay on after that?
No, I don't think there was anybody stayed on.
Right, so everyone left at the same time.
They used to go to, if they were going to continue their education, they would go to Leith Academy. They'd be transferred to Leith Academy to a different class.
So David Kilpatrick just went up to 14, and then you'd go to the academy. So what was your first job after leaving school?
After leaving school, I ended up with Scottish Insulation.
What were you doing with them?
Well, I was what they call a monkey dunger. I used to stand on the quay with a big oil drum full of asbestos paste. And to this day, I have what they call pleural plaques. And to this day, it's asbestosis, former asbestosis. And that was Henry Robb's. In Scottish Insulation, it's in Taylor Gardens, just at Taylor Gardens at the beginning of it's a pub, Gladstone's pub.
Right, okay, I know Gladstone's.
And that used to be the office anyway.
And what was your work day? What sort of hours were you working then?
Well, usual 8 till 5 or something.
Was that clocking in and clocking out?
No. You would go to the site. It could be like Henry Robb's, you'd be working there on these ships, 2 ships, the Hebe and the Bacchus, large transport supply ships for the Royal Navy. And they used to bring up the engineers from Newcastle, the company in Newcastle used to do. And we had some great fights with these guys.
We've had quite a lot of folk who've come into the Wee Museum of Memory who worked at Henry Robb or Brown Brothers and had a terrible time. Was it? Was it just hard work?
Terrible.
Yeah.
What I used to do, I used to mix up this paste on the quay. I used to go up the gangplank I used to go into the superstructure of the ship, and then you would go down towards the engine room on a ladder. Now, the guys that were actually coating the pipes and everything used to always be shouting more stuff. And it was very difficult because you'd try to go down this ladder and there'd be guys like burners above you, guys like welders flashing your eyes.
Yeah.
It was horrendous.
And how long were you there for?
I was lucky if I was there for, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that.
And
then you'd send you somewhere else, to a boiler house. You go to a boiler house somewhere else. And be falling asleep all the time. It would be 120 degrees.
But was that a step up from that first job?
6 2/3 really.
Yeah. So when did you escape that world into a job that was?
Well, what I did was I got a job as an apprentice coach builder at the end of Graham Street, a firm called Curtis and Innes. I went there. Peter Cormack got a job as a painter there, and he was lucky if he was there 3 days because the Hearts come and signed him on a pre-apprentice thing. They helped the man at Tynecastle and the ground staff, but he was actually training with the team and things like that. So that was Peter went to the Heart.
How much would he be getting in those days? Would you remember?
It wouldn't be much at all. And then he went to the Hibs when he was 17, when he was to sign a professional contract. Him and a chap called Eric Stevenson both left the Hearts and went to Hibs.
Was that controversial at the time, or did that happen more often in those days? Or it was still.
And Peter was a Hearts supporter. We went to Hibs and played amazing games for Hibs.
And do you remember why he made that switch then?
Well, it's obviously financial. He offered more.
And he'd be training. How much would he be training in those days then? Would he be training every night or 3 nights a week? Or?
He'd be helping the guy in the ground staff, clearing up whatever he was doing. But then he'd be training in those days, the team, or the first team, used to train in the actual park, running around the park and things like that.
And would he be cleaning the players' boots as well? Was that part of the routine? Yeah. And we're carrying on through your work history. Where did you end up next?
I managed to get a transfer. I met a chap that was very big in the union, and I got the job at the end of Graham Street. It was a lot of sort of dirty work, and it wasn't that great. I managed to get a transfer of my apprenticeship to SMT at Roseburn. SMT in Roseburn built new trucks, they built new vans, furniture vans, they built flat platforms, they built all the breweries lorries. And it was an absolute night and day job. Terrific to get in. So I was up there until I finished my time. And then again, it's like a lot of things in those days, when your time is up, they used to pass you. And a lot of it was to do with contracts as well. You know, if you had X amount of vehicles to build, when it was finished, it was finished. And
alongside your work at this point, are you still like training fighters or fighting yourself, or at the same time? Yeah. So that was your main hobby alongside the work.
Getting a lot of publicity, because you would get your. I once done an exhibition with Ken Buchanan in one of the big, I don't know, it's a music hall, wherever it was, and there was a great photograph in the back of the Evening News or whatever it was, and. Everybody, people pointing in the street and everything, you know.
Because he was a sensational boxer, wasn't he?
Kenny was exceptional. It wasn't that good until it was okay until he was about 17. I could handle him no problems whatsoever. Yeah. Till he was about 18, 19. And then...
And what changed? Did he just get fitter and faster or more powerful? Or
Incredible. I remember once we went to Murrayfield Ice Rink, I think it was a Monday night. And of course, them were the days we used to have your own boots. And we met these two girls. And one girl from Trinent, and the other girl from Walliford. So we go up to St Andrews Square, we get on the SMT bus to take them home. And we get to Northfield. And the bus stopped and Kenny off because he lived in Northfield. Well, we said, I'm doing my granny's messages in the morning. And a load of rubbish. And I ended up with the two latches away there. Try to thumb a lift back because the buses were all stopped.
So did you follow Ken to any of the destinations abroad for his world titles, or did you see him in? Because he didn't ever fight in Scotland, did he? Or didn't?
He did. He fought Jim Watt in Glasgow.
I think I just remember it taking a long time before he fought in Scotland, or maybe Edinburgh. Did he never fight in Edinburgh?
Nobody would finance it. They wanted to fight Edinburgh Castle.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And then they also wanted to, or Tynecastle. There's nobody would ever come up with the money.
We'll carry on through your work history. Where have we got to in your work life?
I'm at SMT Rosemont. End the apprenticeship. From there, I went from there to McDonald Road, Wilkinson's, coach builder. Ended up building lorries for them. And then from there, I met a girl who worked with Scottish and Newcastle, who gave me the inroads to get in, introduced me to the transport manager. So I got in there. But what I did when I went to Scottish and Newcastle was they didn't have a place for me as a coach builder, but would I work in the turn room? Well, I was engaged to be married, so I was saving up, and the wages were incredible. About a third again what I was getting as a coach builder, but only it was continental shifts. So they introduced me into the turn room, and I went in the turn room. Of course, there was a chap that didn't drink, so I was welcomed with open arms with the White Coat Brewers because they could always find me. I worked there for, God knows, 20 odd years.
And where did you meet your fiancée?
Tiffany's. Tiffany's was a nightclub in Stockbridge.
And can you remember did she approach you? Did you approach her? How did it?
Just got up and asked her to dance.
Right, so that was the first line. Yeah. And were you together from that night on?
Well, to a certain extent. I used to train 4 or 5 nights a week. Well, 4 nights and then a Sunday afternoon.
And what was your wife's name?
Sandra.
And so where did you get married about?
Got married in Southleaf Church in the Kirkgate.
Was there a big party afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
Whereabouts?
Oh, gosh. A hotel up near London Road.
Did you have a band or a DJ in those days? A band, would it? And family. Tell me a bit about your family, your kids.
Well, my kids. Well, Sandra and I had a little girl called Suzanne. Suzanne works with, I think it's the Bank of Scotland, the Royal Bank. She's out at the Gyle, doing well. Got 2 kids herself. Lives in Bonnyrigg. Nice house at Bonnyrigg. And a great guy, good husband. That's Suzanne. My other daughter was to my second wife, and her name's Vanessa.
So when are your kids born then? When's the when was Suzanne born?
78. 1978.
Okay. And your second one then? Where are we now in the timeline?
1985.
And you got 2 kids then? 2
kids. Mm-hmm. And they've got 2 kids each. So I've got 4 grandchildren.
Right. And you spend a lot of time with them still?
I do.
Are you the main babysitter?
No, really, no. No, they're very conscientious with their own children.
And what do you do when you see the kids? Do you take them to the pictures or go to the park? Or?
No, I usually play in the back garden with my grandson when I go down to Vanessa's house, and he calls me Craig Gordon because he always has to push me in goal.
He still makes some good saves, do you?
Oh, now and again. Watch the hip though.
Is he a good wee footballer, is he?
Oh, great.
And is he playing is he started at a club or anything?
He's at a club called Pentland, and I think they play out of Pennycook. I was actually with them. They took me up he was playing at St Johnson a week ago last week, and they took me up with them. They got beat 3-2, playing the youth team. He's 9.
Right.
He's not 9, he's 8. He's nearly 9. And good.
Yeah.
The whole lot, they're all very, very good.
It's different these days, isn't it? I think there was a lot of knock the ball out to the right back and he'll hump it up the pitch, in the from the 50s to the, whereas these days there's a lot of passing it from the back.
Everybody just used to play. Never any tactic.
And there was a lot of just hoofing up the pitch as well.
When you played at DK with Peter Cormack, you just used to give the ball to Peter, and that was it.
And what else do you like to do with your spare time these days?
Well, I've discovered drink in the last year or 2.
Have you, after 75 years of...
Oh, that's amazing. No, I've been drinking now for about 10 years or so. They're very good to me. They give me bottles of malt whiskey for birthdays and stuff, and I eke it out a wee bit. But I like to go to, there's one pub I like to go to. I used to go to the Malts and Hops on the shore, because I had a good pal, Stuart Johnson, that lived right at the bottom of Henderson Street there before you come on the shore. He's passed away, and I used to meet Stuart in there, and I'd have maybe a pint of lager, and then I've gradually graduated to Peroni, and I go to a place maybe once or twice a week called the Cask and Barrel at the bottom of Broad Street.
So what made you, after a life of sobriety, decide to have that first drink at, what would it be, 65 or something?
No, well, I used to like a rum and coke. Typical, you've been on holiday, so you'd have a Bacardi and coke.
But you were just never a heavy drinker?
No, I was never in that. And Everybody absolutely adored me up in the brewery, Scottish Newcastle, Fountain Brewery, in the town, because I was the one that was the scapegoat. Because when they're looking for somebody, they could find me. Because some of my mates on that shift drink 14 pints.
Yeah.
And you might not believe that.
No, I can believe that.
Please believe it. And you know what was really ironic was pub right opposite the main door in Fountain Bridge was, they called it Foy's, but it was called the Fountain Bar. And then they used to go over there at the end of the shift, 62, 2 o'clock, and they'd order large Newcastle Browns. They wouldn't get a pint of export, what we used to make. They'd order, there'd be 6 guys going there, 6 large Newcastle Browns. And that's what they used to drink. That used to baffle me.
So you must have done, over the years, an awful lot more work than your colleagues if they were drinking 14 pints a shift.
It was easy because it was, like in a sweetie factory, how the sweets come along a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
It was like that. Didn't matter where you turned. There was a glass. If you went down in the cellars, immaculate, they were immaculate. And there would be a glass on the girder, and you would be able to see what they call sight glasses in the pipes. Now the pipes were maybe about 12, maybe 10 inches in circumference, but they'd be 25 pints. And everybody used to have a little, like on a, what do you call these, a samovar, these things that you get, the Russians used to get the tea out of.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's a little cock.
Yeah.
That fits on the bottom. Well, everybody used to have one of them. So you go along and you put the cock on to where the side glass was. You couldn't see the beer because it was moving that quick. It was no bubbles or anything. And they just used to fill it. Then they would go all to the next bit, have another one. Or maybe go up the stair. And
a lot of happy colleagues.
Oh, I often wonder how much they would spend in the wet holidays. Because a pint of beer there was one chap who used to smoke Captain Full Strength, and he could drink, and you could never understand the word they said. Blah, 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 blah. And he was like, and his nickname was Heavy Breathing.
That's
He was
brilliant.
a great guy. Yeah. And it's funny because you would never have placed him. He used to go to World Championships for model airplane making.
Are you still in touch with any of those guys?
No.
And so your working life, did Scottish and Newcastle take you right through to retirement, or is there more?
Well, I got made redundant. Heineken and Carlsberg came in and put together a joint venture and bought them all out. So student accommodation up there now. It's amazing. And so I healthy retirement, healthy redundancy. And then what happened after that was I had a good pal of mine had a taxi at Edinburgh Airport. And I had a taxi brief because I'd went in the library and read it up. All the streets in Edinburgh. If you're into that kind of thing, it's easy. And I was very, very interested in all the streets, wherever they were. So what I did is I sat the taxi test, and there was 105 questions, and 5 questions of routes, with 100 questions of, if it was like Great Junction Street, you say Leith Walk, or would you just say that? And I got 105 out of 105.
That's impressive.
Because, well, I'd been made redundant anyway. I was just going to the library and reading up on it. And that was it. And then I got myself out to Edinburgh Airport driving this car. Absolutely brilliant. Places that I never thought I'd ever go to the likes of St Andrews and places like that. People apologising. I was really sorry, I need to go to St Andrews. That'll be £100. Well, can you give me a receipt? Dead easy. And at night, you used to get the tourists used to get all the girls from Ireland coming over for the weekend. Oh, terrific. Had some great times.
And a lot of good chats, most people like to chat.
Yeah. I'd have done it for nothing.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
For nothing. Loved it.
And what made you stop driving then in the end?
Well, at the end, what happened was the licensing laws in Edinburgh, the council say, right, you have to have a brief, taxi brief. But the airport says, you can have the brief, but you have to have the permit. So without the two of them, you were null and void. So I managed to get the two of them together, and then they offered me. And after 6-7 years of driving for this guy, the airport called me up to the head office and they said, would you like to get a taxi of your own? Aye. So, aye, sure, brilliant. Jumped in. There were always estate cars for the luggage and stuff,
Yeah.
And that is whether silver or white, but that was no problem. And I loved it. And what happened was there was a crowd. They owned taxis in the west of Scotland. And how they got in, I don't know. They managed to out the council, out the airport. So this crowd came in, and they come in all with their own cars. And you had to rent the car off of them, you had to maintain it through them, you had to do everything. And then it wasn't, and then again, there was people that were in charge of you that couldn't respect them at all. So I just thought, oh, well, that's it. I think it was 2014.
Well, it's such a nice thing that the last job of your life was maybe the most fun one. You know?
I had another car lined up. I was going to get myself a nice Passat, Volkswagen Passat. I had it all lined up at Volkswagen, and I had to cancel it because I thought, oh no, I'm not going to put up with this. And they took it instead. We used to go right round to the front of the airport and used to see everything that was happening. But this crowd took you away at the back over to where the go-kart place was. Oh, it was terrible. So I just never bothered renewing anything. Just went, quite happy to go.
I've got a couple more questions for you, William, but I'd quite like to, this is going to add this into the Life Story show now. I'd like to just get a wee glimpse, a little bit of colour of a couple of incidents through history that I haven't lived through that you have. And I know that one of your favourite footballers is Pele. Can you remember?
I've changed it.
Have you? Second, let's put Pele second. But do you have much in the way of memories of the World Cup in 1970 and Brazil's win?
I don't have very many memories about that, but I have great memories of the school, David Kilpatrick Junior Secondary. I went to Hampden to see the European Cup final.
Ah, it's Real Madrid, Eintracht, Frankfurt.
In 7-3.
Yeah, brilliant.
I could even tell you what the team was. The forward line, Real Madrid was incredible.
Who was it?
The new Frenchman played at Easter Road. But the inside right was Del Sol. Centre forward was the Argentinian. Ended up being a Spaniard.
De Stefano, maybe?
De Stefano. The inside left was Puskas, Ferenc Puskas.
Wow.
And the outside left could have won the 100 yards at the Olympics. The guy called Gento. And what was the outside right name? Frenchman. He was absolutely brilliant. Played at Easter Road. The beat Hibs 1-0 at Easter Road in 56. Anyway, that was him. That was one. And then the other one was Scotland versus England. And there was a year of the disaster at Munich, the air disaster. And Bobby Charlton actually played for England that day after the Munich. And the outside left was a guy called Tom Finney, who was an incredible player. And they beat Scotland 4-0. And the goalkeeper was Tommy Younger, who used to be the Hibs, played with Liverpool at the time. Used to be the Hibs goalie. Charlton scored an incredible goal, scissor kick to the edge of the box on the left-hand side.
And do you have any memories of Scotland's famous win in 1967 against England?
Oh, aye.
Jim Baxter sitting on the ball, all that. And what about the debacle in 78 with Ali MacLeod?
Well, you know, they put that on the Alba channel every now and again, that whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, going to Hampden and we're on the map, all that. Well, there's about 6 people in that film that I grew up with. And one of them was a wee guy, was a welder, Willie King, and still goes to the Dockers, Willie. They're all there. And when you see what happened, how they gave them that hotel, how that was never looked into before they went, I don't know.
Yeah. Because people really believed we could maybe win it, didn't they?
What a midfield they had.
Souness.
Don Masson.
Yeah.
Well, not Souness was rubbish. Don Masson, there was 4 of them that were incredible in English football. The 4 midfielders of Scotland. And
was Kenny Dalglish playing at that point?
I think Dalglish was one of the minions.
One of the younger ones, yeah.
As was Souness.
It's just good to remember just the Holland game from that World Cup, isn't it, really? Archie Gemmill.
So the Dutch had to score a goal, eh?
Yeah. 3-1 would have taken us through, I think, wouldn't it? And my other sporting flashback, where were you when Ken Buchanan won the world title for the first time? Where were you listening to it from? Or were you watching it anywhere?
Ken Buchanan, what happened with Ken Buchanan? Ken Buchanan was to fight this Spanish guy, for the European title. The guy called off. Now I can remember because I was sparring with Kenny. And just say it was October, training for the fight. And then the guy called it off. So it was going to take place 6 weeks later. Then the guy called off again 6 weeks later. If you've ever seen these people that are very, very honed. Kenny was twice he had to call off and had to calm down. Well, these guys, when they train like that, everything is fever pitch, everything's spot on. And I could tell. We spun with them and spun with them again. And I think the fight eventually took place in January. And what happened was I could see the difference in Kenny. I was catching Kenny and had another 3 sparring partners up from England. Dave Boy Green, John H. Tracy, and a guy called Ricky Porter, who was a light middleweight. He was going to fight for the light middleweight title in Europe. Anyway, but Kenny, you could tell that he wasn't on his game. Of course, he went and fought the guy. Balaquez was the guy's name. And the guy beat him, split decision, 15 rounds in those days, for the European title. So Kenny, that was him. So the next thing is a guy called, the guy that's the world champion, they've picked Kenny to fight him in Puerto Rico, where the guy come from.
This Laguna.
Ismael Laguna thought this was going to be an easier touch. Well, seemingly, I was talking to his old man when they came back, and he said, he said, we're dead lucky we met this reporter. He said, I had this thing to stop, and he had diarrhea. He says, it's 110 degrees, he says, in the shade. She said, but he beat him at the park.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a return clause, Madison Square Garden. Kenny beat him in Madison Square Garden. But very similar things happened. We had 1 or 2 fights after that with Hands of Stone.
Roberto
Duran, very similar thing happened. They took Duran on, and Duran was an unknown quantity, didn't know. And then I don't think Kenny trained, he was always a hard trainer, but anything like the other fights. And Duran beat him, punched him underneath and everything and all that kind of stuff. But for 10 years they tried to get a return, and couldn't get a return. Now everybody that has world title fights always has a return clause.
Duran didn't want to fight him again, did he? And thank you for those sporting flashbacks. So as to return to your own life, William, just my last couple of questions really. Any regrets?
Getting married twice. Probably.
And your proudest achievements?
Probably my daughter, I think, my youngest daughter, maybe.
And is there anything on your list that we haven't covered?
It's just that's only a snippet of what I was going to write down. Well, that's just something I picked up.
Well, we've still got the football memories to record with the photo as well, but that's about us then, William. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on Lifestory.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much to William for sharing his life with us. For further stories and reminiscence, you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram or X simply by searching for the Living Memory Association. Hope to see you soon at the Wee Museum in Leith. Until next time, we bid you farewell.